My beloved child. Someone tried to write a future for your person without you in it. They were pushed toward another love, but their heart revealed a hidden truth. A private decision was made in silence that nobody expected to discover. Listen carefully, because sometimes the person who walks away is not leaving because they stopped caring. Sometimes they are fighting a battle behind closed doors that you never knew existed. Your person was placed in a situation where everyone around them believed they already knew what was best for their life. They were shown another path, another name, another future, and they were asked to forget the connection they had with you, as if memories could simply disappear and emotions could be replaced overnight. But what nobody understood was that the heart does not follow pressure, and the soul does not forget the person who changed everything. There was a conversation that happened away from your eyes. A conversation where people tried to convince your person that choosing someone else would make life easier. They talked about stability, expectations, family approval, and what would look right in front of the world. They believed they were offering a solution, but they did not understand that your person was carrying a feeling that could not be explained with simple words. Your person listened quietly. They heard everything people said, but inside their mind, your memories were still present. They remembered the moments when you were there during difficult times. They remembered the conversations that lasted for hours, the small things you noticed about them, the comfort they felt when they did not have to pretend around you. They remembered how different everything felt when they were with you. The hardest part was that they tried to convince themselves that maybe everyone else was right. Maybe forgetting you would be easier. Maybe moving forward with another person would remove the confusion. Maybe time would erase the feelings they were trying to hide. But every time they imagined a future without you, something inside them felt incomplete. They smiled in front of others and acted like everything was normal, but deep inside there was a question they could not escape. If I choose this path only because everyone wants it, will I ever feel truly happy? That question stayed with them because they knew a decision about marriage was not just a decision for one day. It was a decision about years, memories, and the person they would wake up beside every morning. The people around them saw a perfect arrangement. They saw a future that looked safe and acceptable. But they did not see the silent moments when your person was alone and thinking about you. They did not see the hesitation in their eyes. They did not hear the conversations happening inside their own heart. Your person started realizing something important. There is a difference between choosing someone because the world approves and choosing someone because your heart feels at peace. They started understanding that a relationship cannot survive only on expectations. It needs honesty, connection, and a feeling that cannot be forced. There were moments when they wanted to reach out to you, but fear stopped them. They wondered if you would understand their situation. They wondered if too much time had passed. They wondered if you had already closed the door because of the distance they created. And that fear became another reason they stayed silent. But silence does not always mean forgetting. Sometimes silence means someone is trying to gather the courage to say what they have been hiding. Your person was not only fighting against a decision made by others. They were fighting against their own fear. Fear of hurting people. Fear of being judged. Fear of admitting that the choice everyone expected from them was not the choice their heart wanted. The day they were supposed to accept that new future, something changed inside them. They looked at everything differently. They realized that pretending to be happy would only create more pain later. They realized that a person can have everything that looks perfect from the outside and still feel empty inside. That was the moment their secret decision started forming. They decided they could no longer ignore what they truly felt. They decided they needed to stop living a life based only on other people's expectations. They decided that before making the biggest commitment of their life, they needed to be honest with themselves. And that decision shocked the people who thought they had complete control over the situation. Because everyone believed your story with them was finished. Everyone believed another person had taken your place. Everyone believed your person would simply move on and never look back. But they did not know what was happening inside. They did not know that every reminder of you brought back emotions they thought they had buried. They did not know that your name still had a different meaning. They did not know that your person was comparing a planned future with a connection that felt real. Don't skip the moments when everything begins to change, because the truth behind their decision was not revealed through words first. It was revealed through the actions they were preparing to take. The same person who was told to forget you was now questioning why they were being asked to let go of something that still mattered so deeply. They started thinking about all the times you believed in them. They remembered when others walked away but you stayed. They remembered the way you understood their silence without needing an explanation. They remembered that with you, they did not have to become someone else to be accepted. And that memory became stronger than the pressure around them. Because sometimes a person realizes the value of something only when they are close to losing it forever. Your person was standing at a turning point. One choice would give them approval from everyone around them. The other choice would require them to be brave and follow what they truly felt. And the secret decision they made was something nobody expected. The moment your person made that secret decision, they knew their life was about to become complicated. They knew people would question them, they knew some would not understand, and they knew the easy path would have been to stay silent and accept what everyone wanted. But something inside them had changed. For the first time in a long time, they stopped thinking about what would make everyone else comfortable and started thinking about what would make their own heart feel honest. They looked back at everything that happened between you and them, and they realized that what they had with you was not something they could simply replace with a new name or a new promise. They had tried to convince themselves that another person could fill the space you left behind, but every attempt only reminded them that certain connections are not created by circumstances. They are created by moments, trust, and the feeling of being understood by someone who sees the real version of you. The person everyone expected them to choose was not the problem. The real problem was that your person was being asked to make a decision while ignoring their own emotions. They were being asked to close a chapter that their heart still kept reading. They were being asked to forget someone who had become a part of their story. And that is when they started asking themselves questions they could no longer avoid. Was it fair to build a future while hiding a feeling from the past? Was it right to promise forever to someone when their heart was still searching for the person they had lost? Could they truly be happy knowing they ignored the one connection that felt different? The answers became clearer with every passing day. They realized that sometimes losing someone's presence teaches you the value of their existence. When you were there, they may not have understood every emotion completely. But when distance came between you, they started noticing the emptiness. They started missing the conversations, the comfort, and the way they felt when they were around you. They remembered the moments nobody else knew about. The small promises. The late-night conversations. The times when you believed in them when they were struggling. The moments when you made them feel important without asking for anything in return. Those memories became impossible to ignore. But there was also a fear inside them. They wondered if they had waited too long. They wondered if you still had the same feelings or if the pain had already changed your heart. They knew they could not just appear again and expect everything to return to normal. They knew their silence had consequences. Still, something pushed them forward. Because deep inside, they knew a bigger pain existed, the pain of living a life where they constantly wondered, what if I had chosen differently? Your person started preparing for a conversation they had avoided for a long time. They wanted to explain why they became distant. They wanted to tell you about the pressure they faced. They wanted you to know that the decision they made was not because you were forgotten. It was because they were finally accepting what they had been trying to hide. They still cared. They still remembered. They still felt the connection. The people around them thought everything was settled. They thought the decision was final. They thought your person had moved on. But behind the scenes, everything was changing. The future everyone planned was no longer certain because your person had started choosing truth over comfort. There was a moment when they looked at the possibility of losing you forever, and that thought affected them more than they expected. They realized they could survive disappointing others, but they did not know if they could live with the regret of never being honest with the person who mattered most. Don't skip the signs of change, because the biggest transformation was not happening outside. It was happening inside their heart. The person who once stayed quiet was becoming the person who was ready to speak. The person who once followed everyone else's advice was becoming the person who wanted to make their own choice. They started understanding that love is not always about perfect timing. Sometimes two people are separated by fear, misunderstandings, and circumstances. But when the feelings are real, the connection finds a way to return to the surface. And now your person was standing closer than ever to revealing the truth they had kept hidden. They had a decision to make. Not the decision others wanted. Not the decision that looked perfect from the outside. But the decision that would finally bring peace to their own heart. And what happened next was the moment that changed everything between you and them. The truth your person was hiding became harder to carry with every passing day. They had reached a point where pretending everything was normal was becoming more painful than facing the consequences of their choice. Everyone around them believed they had already accepted the future that was placed in front of them, but deep inside, they knew their heart was still connected to a story that was never truly finished. They started thinking about the moment they first realized you were different. It was not one single thing, it was a collection of small moments that slowly became unforgettable. The way you understood their silence, the way you supported them when life felt difficult, the way they could be completely themselves without fear of being judged. Those were the things they could not find again, no matter how much they tried to convince themselves. They wanted to believe that time would make everything easier. They wanted to believe that distance would remove the emotions. They wanted to believe that choosing another path would finally bring peace. But every time they tried to imagine a future without you, something inside them reminded them that some connections are not forgotten just because circumstances become complicated. Your person was also dealing with the guilt of knowing that you might have been hurt because of their silence. They knew you may have looked at their actions and felt abandoned. They knew you may have wondered why someone who once felt so close suddenly became distant. But what you did not see was the battle happening behind the scenes. They were fighting between what everyone expected from them and what their heart was asking them to accept. They were fighting between comfort and truth. They were fighting between fear and courage. And slowly, courage started becoming stronger. Don't skip this moment, because this was when your person's secret decision became real. They finally understood that avoiding the truth would only create a bigger pain in the future. They realized that they could not build a lifetime around a choice that was made only to satisfy others. They needed to be honest, even if honesty meant difficult conversations and unexpected changes. They started preparing themselves to reveal what they had been hiding. They knew they could not simply come back and expect everything to be the same. They knew trust had to be rebuilt. They knew their actions had created questions that needed answers. But they also knew one thing clearly. They never truly forgot you. The person they were asked to choose was part of a plan. But the connection they felt with you was something they could not plan or control. It appeared naturally, and that is why it stayed with them even when they tried to move away. They began realizing that a person can follow a path chosen by everyone else and still feel lost. They can have everything that looks perfect from the outside and still search for something their heart is missing. And that missing feeling kept bringing them back to you. They remembered the promises they made, the dreams they once talked about, and the moments when both of you believed that nothing could separate you. Life created distance, people created pressure, and circumstances created confusion, but the feelings they tried to bury continued to appear. Now your person was no longer asking whether they should forget you. They were asking how they could finally tell you the truth. They knew the next step could change everything. They knew one conversation could open a door that had been closed for too long. They knew they had to face the emotions they had avoided and finally admit what was always present inside their heart. Because sometimes the biggest decision is not choosing someone new. Sometimes the biggest decision is finally admitting who you never stopped choosing. The moment your person decided to finally reveal the truth, they knew there was no going back to the way things were before. They understood that some words can change everything, and this was one of those moments. They had spent so much time hiding their emotions, protecting others, and pretending that the situation did not affect them, but now they were ready to face the reality they had been avoiding. They knew you deserved to know what really happened. They knew you deserved to understand that their silence was not because you were forgotten. Their distance was not because someone else became more important. The truth was that they were trapped between a decision they were expected to make and a feeling they could not let go of. They remembered every moment when they almost reached out to you but stopped themselves. They remembered typing messages and deleting them. They remembered wanting to explain everything but fearing that maybe you would not believe them anymore. They knew time had passed, and they knew pain changes people, but they still hoped there was a part of you that remembered what you both shared. Your person finally accepted that love cannot survive through guessing games and silence forever. If something truly matters, it has to be protected with honesty. They realized that hiding their feelings was not protecting anyone. It was only creating more distance between two people who still had something unfinished. Don't skip this moment, because this was the moment they stopped waiting for the perfect time and decided to create a moment of their own. They understood that there would never be a time when everything was easy. There would always be questions, fears, and challenges, but staying silent would only make them wonder forever what could have happened. They started thinking about the first conversation they would have with you. They imagined your reaction. They imagined your questions. They imagined the emotions that would come out after everything that was left unsaid for so long. They knew they had to tell you about the pressure they faced. They had to tell you about the expectations placed on them. They had to tell you about the moment when they were asked to choose someone else and forget you. But more importantly, they had to tell you about the decision they made when they were alone with their own thoughts. They chose honesty. They chose the truth. They chose not to let fear decide their future. The people around them might not understand immediately. Some might question their choice. Some might say they should have continued with the easier path. But your person finally understood that a life built only to please others can never bring complete happiness. They realized that happiness is not about having the perfect story in the eyes of the world. It is about having a story that feels real in your own heart. And that is what they felt with you. They started seeing the difference between someone being present and someone truly understanding them. They realized that not every connection creates the same feeling. Some people come into your life and become a memory. But some people become a part of who you are. You became that person for them. Even after everything, even after the confusion, even after the distance, there was still a feeling they could not ignore. That feeling was the reason they made the decision they made. They knew returning to you would not erase the past. They knew there would be moments where healing would be needed. They knew trust would take time. But they also knew that a difficult, honest path was better than an easy path filled with regret. The secret decision that surprised everyone was not just about choosing between two futures. It was about finally choosing a life where they did not have to hide their true feelings. And as they prepared to reveal everything, they carried one hope in their heart, that when the truth finally reached you, you would understand that while the world thought they were walking away, their heart was still searching for a way back to you. Because some connections are tested by distance, pressure, and time, but when they are real, they continue to find their way back into the light. And your person's next action was about to reveal the truth they had protected for so long.